Hello! Are you having a good week? Are you back in school yet? Or are you still studying at home? Well, today we're going to read a true story about someone who uses her gifts to make the world a better place. We're going to read Saving the Countryside, the story of Beatrix Potter and Peter Rabbit. And Beatrix Potter, when this story starts, is a young girl. She was born in the year 1866. And do the math. Can you figure out how many years ago that was? Take 2021 and subtract 1866 and let me know, how long ago was she born? Now, you recognize Beatrix Potter. She wrote books about Peter Rabbit, right? And his friends, right? You may remember these books. Your mom or dad, or you may have read these or had some of these when you were younger, right? But Beatrix is more important and did other things than just write stories about a bunch of rabbits and their friends. Okay, let's find out. Saving the Countryside, the story of Beatrix Potter and Peter Rabbit. Words by Linda Elevitz Marshall. Pictures by Ilaria Urbanati. On the third floor of a London townhouse, a young girl sketched pictures of her pet rabbit, Benjamin Bouncer. She also drew frogs, salamanders, turtles, and mice she had rescued from traps. Her name was Beatrix Potter, and she loved nature and the countryside. But she lived in the city. Beatrix and her younger brother Bertram were cared for and taught by nannies and governesses. They did not go to school or play with other children. Every day, at the same time, they had lessons. Every day, at the same time, they went on walks. And every day, at the same time, their mother went to visit her friends. And their father went to his social club. Then came summer and freedom. Beatrix and her family, and even their pets, moved to the countryside. She and Bertram gathered eggs from chickens, fed ducklings from a spoon, and got fresh milk from cows. Beatrix loved the gardens with their lettuces, beans, and cabbages. Benjamin Bouncer loved the gardens too. But summer and the freedom of the countryside didn't last forever. One fall, Bertram went away to school, which was proper for a boy of his social class. Beatrix stayed home, as was then proper for a girl. She was not expected to travel, attend college, or work. But Beatrix wanted to do something important, something that mattered. She often helped her father with his hobby, photography. Together, they visited artist studios, art exhibitions, and museums. She learned from the artists and their work. She noticed fine details and tiny differences in facial expressions. Inspired, Beatrix went back to sketching. Using delicate, precise strokes, she sketched Benjamin Bouncer. She drew him from the front.
She drew him from the side.
She even drew him standing and wearing fancy clothes. Although women like her were not supposed to have careers, Beatrix sent her sketches to publishers anyway.
She still wanted to do something important, something that mattered. One publisher, thinking she was a man, asked the gentleman artist for more pictures. Beatrix sent more, and she landed a job.
Benjamin Bouncer landed one too. He began appearing on holiday cards, and Beatrix Potter began earning money.
Beatrix also spent time studying and drawing nature.
Using Bertram's microscope, she examined mushrooms. She wrote a paper about her discoveries and submitted it to a scientific journal published by the Linnean Society.
But the scientists in charge, who were all men, would not seriously consider her work.
Sad and disappointed, Beatrix returned to drawing bunnies.
One day, Beatrix's young friend Noel Moore was feeling ill. To cheer him up, she wrote him a story about a naughty little rabbit named Peter, who nibbled grumpy old Mr. McGregor's lettuce and came very close to being caught.
Later, she called her story The Tale of Peter Rabbit and made it into a small book, just the right size for little hands.
The Tale of Peter Rabbit was of no interest to most publishers. One publisher considered it, but he took such a long time, and Beatrix could not keep waiting.
So, using money she'd earned from drawing Benjamin Bouncer on holiday cards, Beatrix had 250 copies of The Tale of Peter Rabbit printed.
She put the books up for sale. Can you guess? Every copy sold. She ordered more copies. They sold too.
The Tale of Peter Rabbit was such a success that at last the publisher made her an offer. Beatrix Potter struck a deal.
Beatrix made sure that her beautiful little books would not cost too much. She wanted everyone to be able to buy them.
Beatrix kept writing stories. The Tale of Gloucester, The Tale of the Flopsy Bunnies, The Tale of Benjamin Bunny, and others. In all, she wrote 23 little books.
She illustrated her stories with pictures of cottages and gardens, faraway hills, country villages, farms, lakes, forests, and ancient stone bridges.
All the places she loved.
She also designed toys, games, and tea sets, and she put pictures of Peter Rabbit on them. She turned Peter Rabbit into a character.
Beatrix wanted everyone, everywhere, to know that Peter Rabbit was her idea. To protect her creations, she copyrighted her work.
Beatrix Potter, a woman who was not supposed to have a career, had created something important. She had created something that mattered. And she became an excellent businesswoman.
Soon, people all over the world knew about Peter Rabbit. And they knew about Beatrix Potter, too.
But Beatrice missed country life. So, even though unmarried women were not supposed to buy property,
Beatrix bought herself a farm. She bought cows and pigs, too, and Herdwick sheep, a breed unique to the area.
a few years later, Beatrix bought a second farm, and she married a man who enjoyed country life. But Beatrix was growing older. She was changing.
Her fingers were getting stiff, and her eyesight was weakening. She could no longer draw and paint in the delicate, precise way she always had.
The countryside, too, was changing. Roads were widened and paved. Forests were sold. Trees were being chopped down. Houses were built where there had once been farm fields.
Little by little, the landscape that Beatrix loved, the farms, gardens, and cottages she painted, was disappearing.
The country was becoming more like the city.
So Beatrix turned her attention to protecting the natural world, the world that she and Peter Rabbit loved. She bought another farm, and another, and then another. She bought cottages and gardens, farms, and forests.
To save the countryside that inspired her books, Beatrix Potter bought as much land as she could.
She took care of animals and people, too. When sheep took ill and farmers could not afford veterinary care, Beatrix paid the veterinarian bills and helped save the lives of many sheep.
When flu spread through the countryside and rural families lacked medical care, Beatrix arranged for a trained nurse to live in the area and provided her with a cottage and a car.
In the end, Beatrix donated more than 4,000 acres and 15 farms to an organization in England called the National Trust. She made sure the land would be cared for, protected, and cherished forever.
So today, the cottages and gardens, hills, farms, lakes, and forests of the English Lake District still look much like they did when Peter Rabbit first hopped into Mr. McGregor's garden.
Beatrix Potter did something important, something that mattered. She made millions of people, especially children, happy. With the help of her storybook friend Peter Rabbit, Beatrix Potter rescued farms, animals, and wildlife.
Together, they helped save part of the countryside in England for all living things to enjoy.
The end.
So, Beatrix Potter ended up doing what she wanted to do, right? Even though people were like, no, you can't do that kind of thing, right? I had to laugh when she sent the pictures of the rabbit, and they thought that the artist had to be a man because, heavens, it couldn't be a woman, right? And you're like going, you may be puzzled, and you're thinking, well, why couldn't she go to school? Why couldn't she have a career? What's up with that? And at that time in England, people who were wealthy, their daughters were not allowed to do many things. They thought they were supposed to stay home and look pretty and, well, eventually get married and have kids. And that's about it. But remember, Beatrix wanted to do something important. She wanted to do something that mattered. And she did, didn't she? So, Beatrix used her talents to make the world a better place. That beautiful area in England called the Lake District, where there's 4,000 acres of land that can't be developed, that's just kept beautiful with the farms and the sheep and the trees, just the way it looked when she was a little girl. What a beautiful gift that was for her, right? So, I know all of you, when you're thinking about, oh, I can't do, what am I going to do? I can't do that, because people say girls don't do that, or they say boys don't do that. What do you think? Is that true? It's not. God gave you special gifts, and He'd like you to use them, just like Beatrix did. She made the world a better place, and so can you. Okay? See you next week. Bye-bye.